You ever notice how every single time something catastrophic happens in this country, you can trace it back to one simple cause, one decision, one ideology? Deregulation. The GOP has spent decades convincing Americans that regulations, the laws that keep the world from burning down around us, are actually bad. They've convinced people that free markets will self-correct, that corporations are smarter than governments, that rules and oversight are oppressive, and that somehow, if we just get out of the way, everything will magically work better. But let's get one thing straight right now. This is a lie. It's a lie that has killed people. To break this down properly, let's go back to the Enlightenment, because this entire conversation is fundamentally about whether we still believe in rational governance or whether we want to return to feudalism. Thinkers like Locke, Montesquieu, Rousseau, and Kant argued that a legitimate government must be built on reason, evidence, and the protection of human liberty. They understood that laws aren't chains on society, they're the structure that makes society possible. Adam Smith, the guy conservatives love to misquote, was very clear that free markets only work within a framework of law and regulation. He wrote that governments are obligated to step in when corporate interests start endangering public welfare. So why, in 2025, do we have a political party still pushing an economic system that the literal creators of capitalism knew would lead to collapse? Because they don't believe in capitalism. They believe in feudalism. When the GOP gutted housing regulations, they told us it was to remove burdensome restrictions and unleash the free market. What did that free market do? It collapsed in 2008 and wiped out trillions in generational wealth. Why? Because regulations exist to stop people from making the kinds of reckless, short-sighted decisions that tank entire economies. When you remove rules, greedy people don't suddenly become responsible. They get worse. And when the housing market crashed, who suffered? Not the billionaires, not the corporate landlords, you. And here's the thing, we didn't learn. Housing is still being deregulated, which is why rents are skyrocketing and wages are stagnating. The GOP keeps promising that if we just get government out of the way, homeownership will become affordable again. Where? Show me one instance in human history where that's happened. The 2008 financial crisis wasn't an anomaly. It was inevitable, because when you deregulate banks, they don't become smarter or more efficient. They become gamblers. The same people who crashed the global economy walked away richer than ever. The only people who lost were working class Americans whose homes, pensions, and savings were wiped out. And you'd think we'd have learned. But in 2018, the GOP repealed key banking regulations, and in 2023, guess what happened? Banks started collapsing again. You remember East Palestine, Ohio? A town poisoned because railroad companies didn't want to spend money on basic fucking safety? For 40 years, railroad regulations were stripped away. And every time, they said it would make rail travel more competitive. Here's the reality. In 2015, Obama passed regulations requiring modern braking systems. In 2017, Trump repealed them. In 2023, a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed, setting an entire town on fire. This is what deregulation looks like. And guess what? Even after this disaster, Republicans refuse to reinstate the rules that would prevent it from happening again. Why? Because deregulation isn't about helping you. It's about maximizing profits at the cost of human life. And now, we come to the most recent, most catastrophic failure of all, the FAA. Trump fired every top aviation safety official a week before a military Black Hawk collided with a passenger jet in Washington, D.C. Now ask yourself, what the fuck did they think was going to happen? Aviation is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the world. Why? Because one small mistake can kill hundreds of people in an instant. The GOP is literally playing with lives, gutting the very agencies that prevent mid-air collisions because some billionaire donors don't want to deal with red tape. How many people have to die before we admit that deregulation is not freedom? It's a slow-motion suicide. At the end of the day, the GOP doesn't actually believe in capitalism. They believe in corporate feudalism. They don't want a free market. They want an unregulated market where a handful of billionaires own everything and everyone else is permanently desperate, permanently struggling, permanently too exhausted to fight back. And every single industry they deregulate moves us closer to that world. Housing, feudal landlords. Banking, corporate overlords. Railroads, private tyrannies. Air travel, fucking Russian roulette. And the worst part? Every single time they do this, they gaslight the public into thinking it's just an unlucky accident instead of the direct and predictable consequence of their policies. The Enlightenment gave us reason, democracy, and the idea that governments exist to serve the people, not the powerful. That is what we are losing. And that is why this fight matters. Because at the end of the day, regulation is just another word for civilization. And if we let the GOP continue down this road, gutting the laws that keep us safe, destroying the institutions that hold society together, we are walking straight into a new dark age. So ask yourself this. Do you want to live in a society governed by reason? Or do you want to live in a corporate feudal hellscape where everything you love is disposable? Because that's the real choice here. Stop listening to the GOP. Stop believing the lie. And for the love of everything, fight back.